Sports Salad, where everything's in the mix.
What's going on, guys? It is March 27th. That means that we are 18 days out of the NBA playoffs. We're going to be taking a look at the standings today, kicking it off with the Eastern Conference. Looking at it, Toronto settled into that one spot. It's probably going to be like that for the rest of the way going forward. I can't see it getting any different.
Nah, Celtics 3 games behind. There's about 8 games remaining. They'd have to win 3 more than them. Kyrie's down. We don't even know if he's going to be ready for the playoffs starting out. So they're not catching up. I don't think, at least.
I think I saw a report he's actually out for the first round.
Yeah, so the Celtics are not getting any closer, but they're also 6.5 games up on the Cavs, so they're not falling any farther back. So I think 1 and 2 are locked in for right now.
I agree there. One interesting point is the 3 and 4 spots. Cleveland, Philadelphia separated about a game, and both on their own winning streaks.
And then Indy coming right behind them, a half game behind 76ers. And everybody knows the 4 and 5 fighting for home court, so that could be a huge battle the rest of the way for those 8 games, because home court advantage means all the difference in the NBA, for some teams at least.
Yeah, if I had to place my bets, I would put it on LeBron to maintain that 3 spot. I don't think he wants to drop him any further. Just save himself the hassle of worrying about no home court and just stick it out at the 3. Moving on down, Washington, which I honestly did not expect in that spot at all, especially after John Wall went down. They really picked up their play. Milwaukee, and then Miami in the 8th spot.
And then the Pistons coming at 9, already 5 games behind. They're not catching up, sadly, as much as we'd love to see them here in Detroit. Personally, I'd rather see them just bomb out and try to get that terrible trade pick back, but
they're not winning anything either way, so we might as well try to improve the team by tanking in a way.
But they can't do anything. Stupid Clippers trade.
True. Yeah. We'll see how that works in the future.
All in all, we're locked in through those seeds. Bucks and Heat battling basically for that 8 seed. 7 seed kind of. Wizards 1 game ahead of the Bucks, also in contention, but I think they'll stick around in their 6 seed, even on that 3-game losing streak right now. I don't know. They got to turn it around. There's only 8 games remaining.
Matchup-wise, let's say, playoffs started today. We're looking at Toronto and Miami. That's tricky. We know Toronto's been in the playoffs. They have a tendency to disappoint. I don't think they're going to do that this year. That being said, I could see that going like 6 games.
The one thing that's bouncing out to me right now, just looking at the standings, Toronto is 30-7 at home. So I can't see Toronto losing at home to Miami, but I think they're just built better as a whole team. I mean, DeRozan's playing out of his mind. Kyle Lowry's doing well. They finally get the bench up and going. Fred VanVleet came out of nowhere. Well, not necessarily out of nowhere, but the Wichita Shockers really showing off this year, showing out.
Honestly.
So I can't see the Heat staying with them. And furthermore, Bucks or Wizards, if they fell down to the 8, I don't think any of those 3 teams are staying with Toronto. So
I think it'd be even easier for Toronto.
That's what I'm saying. I think Toronto's bouncing to the second round no matter who's waiting for them.
Right. Miami's a strong 8 seed. They're going to give them, which could be good. They might give them a needed wake-up call in the first round. That way they're ready to go on.
One thing that could be tricky is if the Heat slip up to the 7th spot, slide into there, and Kyrie out for the Celtics. I mean, that could be a whole different beast.
Recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I know. That could be tricky. So the Celtics sticking there, I wouldn't want. If I was the Celtics, I'd be hoping for maybe the Wizards to drop another game. I know they're looking good, but the Bucks with Kempo, you can't keep up with that size.
Right, they got Jabari Parker back. Bledsoe's playing great. That's
not
tricky.
A team I'd want to face, especially Celtics down Kyrie.
Yeah, that's rough.
The interesting real section right here that attracts me: Cavaliers, 76ers, Pacers, 3, 4, 5. 2 of those teams, there's a really good chance we'll be playing each other. As of right now, it's Philly versus Indiana. That would be one hell of a series.
That would be great.
That'd be must-watch TV. I'd like to see that. That would be very interesting to see.
I think that one's got the potential to go possibly 7. I could just see both those teams, everyone coming down to the wire.
Another funny thing, 76ers and Pacers both have losing records on the road. So that could be big. All the difference. That home court advantage could mean everything. And with them being separated by a half game right now, that could be monumental. So whoever has the home court advantage going in.
Either way out of it, let's say Philly does get home court and stays in 4, or doesn't, I'd go them over the Pacers. in a 7-game series either way. I think they're just more complete.
I agree. This is going to be 6 or 7 games regardless. Depot will try to lead that team, but I don't think there's enough depth.
No,
they got Depot, they got Miles, but as a team, I don't think Indiana's really got it. 76ers aren't crazy deep, but that team's just playing out of its mind right now. Markelle just got back. He looked decent. He looked pretty good yesterday, and he's just getting his shooting legs together.
Yeah, just getting him back in the rotation's a huge boost. He doesn't have to play many minutes. 15 good minutes a game, that's a huge difference.
Jump shot didn't look amazing, but they didn't get him to shoot threes. Exactly. He's not there to be a scorer. He's there to facilitate. He's there to do what he needs to do. I don't know if he's going to stay coming off the bench for the playoffs. That would be something interesting to keep up with to see.
Depending on how he kind of meshes with the rest of the team, because they already got a good setup with Redick at the 2.
That's what I'm saying.
Ben Simmons is running point. Putting another point guard in the rotation is going to be tricky.
And imagine having a number 1 overall pick coming off the bench. That could be a really solid guy to have. Solid guy to run that backup unit.
Honestly. So
I'd go 76ers over Pacers either way. I agree. The only place where it could get tricky is if Cleveland falls into the 4. Then I think they're beating 76ers or Pacers. It doesn't matter.
I don't think Cleveland's losing, period, in the East, to be honest.
No, I can't see it. At the end of the day, the only team that can really compete, in my opinion, is the Celtics. But if they had Gordon Hayward back, maybe. But without Gordon, I just don't see it. From Boston, I can't.
And it's weird you say that. Technically, I mean, you look at Toronto, they have a better team, right? But for some reason, it gives you that, I don't know, that feeling that LeBron just owns the Raptors. No matter how good their team is, he's just going to win against them.
The Raptors, historically, haven't shown me enough. Whenever they do line up, not just the Raptors, anyone who lines up against the Cavaliers in the East has not been able to. It just hasn't been able to match up. LeBron did what he had to do. Even a few years ago when Love and Kyrie were having injury issues, it didn't matter. I can't see it being a problem. I can see the Cavaliers walking through this conference, whether they're a 2 seed, 3 seed, 8 seed. It doesn't matter to me. I see the Cavaliers in the finals.
Completely agree. I mean, people are going to have... they're going to be real excited if they drop a game. I mean, we saw last year against the Celtics where they dropped like 2 games. Did you ever have a feeling they were really going to lose that series? Because I didn't.
That's the thing about it. Like, LeBron does what he has to do. The East as a whole is pretty weak. The bottom teams look decent, but to me, these bottom teams look like they would squeeze in at 10, 11 seeds in the West. So at the end of the day, the West is just stronger. Right. And LeBron does what he has to do in a weak conference. So he's historically proven that he can do that.
Definitely agree there. Going back to what you said about Milwaukee, so let's say it stays like this. It's Boston, Milwaukee, Kyrie out, first round. Does Milwaukee have a real chance? I think they have a real chance of winning.
Oh, yeah. Bledsoe can dominate that point, especially with Kyrie gone. They have a mismatch there. They have a mismatch at small forward. I know Jason Tatum's doing his thing out there, but he's not keeping up with the Greek Freak. Then bigs, I mean, Al Horford knows what he has to do. He's done what he has to do his whole career. The guy's been one hell of a player for Boston this year. The stats might not necessarily show it. He doesn't look like he's going all out every game. If you look at it statistically, there's guys that are doing better, but that guy does everything he needs to do for Boston, and he's keeping them where they are. So, I mean, the Bucks could cause some problems, but I think the Celtics will still get through, even without Kyrie.
Especially with that home court, I think it's big. Another thing, too, since the Celtics picked up Greg Monroe, I know he hasn't played that much, but let's say they're riding Al Horford hard without Kyrie. They're forced to go a little bit more bench smart, and Greg Monroe comes in against his former team, the Bucks. I think he could do some damage.
He might try to show up a little, try to show them what they're missing out on.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, we're looking at it. It doesn't even matter, in my opinion. Either winner runs into Cleveland next round, or runs into, let's say, who else would be the 3 seed? Even the Pacers, maybe. I think 76ers. Any of those teams that come from that region, I think the Bucks or the Celtics would have problems with in the second round. Unless Kyrie's back. Then the Celtics are walking to the Eastern Conference Finals, as long as they avoid Cleveland.
Yep.
In my opinion. I think Toronto and the Celtics would be a solid series to watch. Just because it would be a nice watch, like I said. But at the end of the day, Cavaliers taking it home.
It's kind of inevitable, huh?
In my opinion, at least.
I agree with you on that one. So we've had it with the East. Let's move on to the, in my mind, more interesting conference this year and for the past couple.
It's in everybody's mind.
True.
But looking at it right now, Rockets are walking away with it. Warriors lost all their best players. There's rumors they're close to coming back. Not all of them. Curry's going to be out at least the first round. So Rockets at 1. Warriors have enough of a stretch on the Blazers to stick around at 2. Blazers coming in at 3, 2 games ahead of the Thunder, and 2.5 games ahead of the Pelicans. So I think Blazers are going to hold it steady there at the 3.
I think so.
Then we're looking down 4, 5, 6. So San Antonio, Pelicans, and the Thunder are all separated by half a game. Thunder being a half game ahead of the Pelicans and the Spurs. This is an interesting little section, just like the East was. Then we roll down to the Jazz at 7, the Timberwolves at 8, and the Nuggets at 9. And even the Clippers at 10. All of them are being separated by 4 games. 2 games. Jazz are on a little streak right now. They're getting it going.
They've been phenomenal this year. For losing Gordon Hayward, I don't think anyone in their right mind was putting them into the playoff picture in the West.
Donovan Mitchell.
And that's
and
just
then Gobert coming back.
Yep.
That guy's been a different beast since coming back. He's done everything he has to do.
He's my defensive player of the year. Just the difference when he's in the lineup to when he's not is just...
Right now, that team looks dangerous.
They are.
I mean, we saw a few days ago, Jazz and Spurs.
That was a great game.
Yeah, that was one hell of a
game.
I agree. But the Jazz really showed. I know the Spurs are down Kawhi right now, but LaMarcus had a great game.
Career high.
Yeah. And he still could not do enough to lead the Spurs to victory, which is one scary...
No, they won that game.
Oh, yeah.
They lost the Bucks game, which goes back to the Bucks being a real contender.
I mean, Mitchell had a huge shot that game.
He did. They could have easily won it. In overtime, it could have gone either way.
I mean, and then what do you think about the Nuggets and the Clippers at 9-10? You think they can overtake the Timberwolves?
Nuggets, I'd be tempted to say yes.
Nuggets game and a half back. Clippers 2 full games back.
Well, 2 factors, I guess. I'd say yes. In the absence of Jimmy Butler, Minnesota's been a completely different team. They're not as good, but I can't say they will because they do not have Gary Harris, and they lose a lot of firepower. They lose a lot of defense with them.
How crazy is it seeing the Clippers at 10? Trade away, debatably, their best player. I know Blake Griffin isn't the Blake Griffin of old, but they trade away their best player. Granted, they do get Tobias back. They gave Avery Bradley back, who is probably one of the worst years he's had of his career.
Definitely.
Especially offensively.
Yep.
I know he's not much of an offensive powerhouse, but this year's really been slow and steady, but they've done surprisingly well.
That's true.
Do you see the Clippers slipping ahead of the Timberwolves? They need to get 2 more wins, and I can't see it either. I'd like to. I like the story, but I don't see the Clippers or the Nuggets slipping ahead of the Timberwolves.
I don't. Just at the end of the day, Minnesota's still a much better team than those. So they'd really have to have a collapse to slip up and not make the playoffs. I mean, without Jimmy, you still got Wiggins. You've got Karl Anthony Towns. Those 2 alone, you have no excuse to leave the playoff race.
All right, now looking a little into what might happen. Imagine this. Spurs are only 1 game ahead of the Jazz. So let's say Spurs drop a few games, fall down to that 7 seed. Let's say Kawhi Leonard comes back pre-playoffs. Now, Warriors at the 2 seed, Curry out for the first round. Imagine that series. Spurs with Leonard back and healthy. Let's say he's at 100, just for the sake of argument. Warriors, 2 guys fresh off injuries. Might not be 100% healthy. We're not sure. In KD, Durant, and even Klay. So 3 guys.
Right.
And Curry out. I think the Spurs could potentially take that series.
I completely agree. I mean, even Kawhi comes back not at 100%. This LaMarcus Aldridge that's out there right now,
you are not wrong.
He'll make up for the other 50.
As long as they can coexist, which we have not seen them do yet for a consistent period of time. They've had their games, but we've never seen a stretch. Maybe here and there, but never a solid stretch of Kawhi and Leo playing off each other. And on top of that, Spurs 29-8 at home. That's without Leonard almost all year.
Right.
And then you got the Warriors 28-9 at home. I understand that those are both great records, but I think Spurs would take all 3 of their home games. And all they got to do is steal 1 away from the Warriors without Curry. That could be Spurs in 6.
It could. I mean, Warriors, that biggest hit to them, they could lose anyone, but losing Curry is by far the worst thing that can happen to them. They'll make it without KD. They've been able to make it without KD.
That's the part that gets me. I want to say overall, KD is a better player.
I agree.
But for whatever reason, and just the way the team meshes, the way the team plays, Curry is the glue that holds the team together.
He's the Warriors. You think Warriors? Yeah. I don't think KD first.
No, I mean, I think of the Thunder before I think of the Warriors when you say KD, but that's a different argument. At the end of the day, Spurs falling to 7, Warriors without Steph, that could be one hell of a series. But now let's say Spurs aren't at 7. Timberwolves, Jazz, do you see any of them competing with the Warriors in the first round? Even Curryless? I'm thinking game or 2 max, to be honest. Either way. Right. Personally. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm disconnecting a little. Timberwolves, I don't see doing enough. Unless Jimmy's back, maybe they can make some noise.
Right.
But
I mean, both of those teams, they've given the Warriors some problems. Utah beat them a couple nights ago, maybe 3 nights ago.
One of the things that helps Utah is size. They got Gobert down low. There's no one on the Warriors team that can stay with Gobert, height-wise, size-wise. Gobert does what he has to do down low.
You got JaVale McGee, but we all know who JaVale McGee really is.
The best thing that JaVale McGee does is injure his own players. That's what he's the best at, if we had to give him attributes.
Imagine that. Everyone's calling for JaVale McGee to take that starting spot over Zaza. No. He's clearly played better. I agree there. But look at this.
It's hilarious.
Warriors got eliminated. Why? Because JaVale McGee fell on Steph Curry.
Honestly, that's what it ends up being. I mean, the Warriors, to me, it's hilarious the way the team is built. If you look at it, it looks like a 2K team.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got some random guys at center that you could pick up from free agency in 2K when you play. You got Zaza, you got JaVale. Next, you're going to see like Greg Oden up there hanging out at center.
The return.
Like, they just don't have it. I don't know. But they do enough everywhere else. Obviously, you got Draymond, you got Clay, you got KD, you got Iggy off the bench, you got Sean Livingston off the bench. They do more than enough. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I think Warriors skate by anything other than the Spurs falling to 7. That could be really dangerous in the first round. Back. I mean,
you went without.
What about without? That's what I'm wondering. What about without? Let's say Kawhi isn't back. Curry's down. Other guys fresh off. I wouldn't give the Spurs a series. Obviously, I don't think you could. If the Spurs did take it, it would probably be 7. And it would be a few lucky bounces here or there without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
But
I think the one big thing, I know regular season doesn't mean anything, but that game where Steph got hurt in the first quarter and Spurs were up by 10 or so, they had a double-digit lead, but KD was just not letting it happen. He was not going to lose.
Yeah.
LA had 35+, but KD would just score their last 15, I think, straight points.
Now let's look just over to Houston. Number 1, you think anyone's touching that?
No way.
Think Minnesota has any chance?
Absolutely not. I think it's a sweep.
What about, let's say, San Antonio falls to 8?
I mean, that could be interesting. They've had the Rockets' number for not this season, but
are you saying
playoff-wise.
With Kawhi, it's interesting, or without Kawhi, it's still interesting?
Without Kawhi, it's interesting in the fact that they'll give Houston all they can handle. They're not winning it. There's no way. With Kawhi, absolutely. I think there's a good chance.
That's a real wild card in the West right now. You look, if Kawhi comes onto this team right now, they could work their way up to a 4 seed. They're only half a game back. In theory, they could work their way up to a 3 seed. They're only 2.5 games back.
That would be something.
So, I mean, they're flexible anywhere from a 3 to missing the playoffs completely. So now let's say Kawhi comes back, they work to 3. It's a completely different conversation. But it's possible these guys sit at the 6, 7, 8 spot. And the other 3 teams worked all year. So I'm talking Rockets, Warriors, and as of right now, Blazers. And you run into possibly one of the best teams in the whole NBA sitting there at an 8 seed, at a 7 seed.
Out of nowhere. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you asked everyone around the league, is Kawhi coming back? Majority would be no.
I don't even know what to get into with that. That's a whole different topic,
no one can say, but
no one even knows what's going on. What about this little matchup in the middle? Thunder Pelicans.
I don't want to say
that. Is that the least interesting matchup in the West, potentially? Or do you think that will be a heck of a series?
I think it'll be a really good series. I just, for some reason, Oklahoma City bothers me. They just seem like they're just underachievers. Melo is so lazy this year. It's painful to watch.
Melo's been lazy for 5-10 years.
It's been a while. They're giving him more coverage this year, and you can really see that guy is just not trying his all.
I mean, Paul George is honestly one of the main reasons they're staying where they are.
Absolutely.
Russell, obviously, but Paul George has done what he needs to do and more. I think he's outshined what a lot of people thought he would be.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people thought this year was going to be like a walkthrough. He lays back, he waits for Los Angeles, and he goes to the Lakers next year.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's rumors swirling maybe he doesn't leave Oklahoma City. I mean, again, a whole different topic, but Paul George has really shown what he can do. And the Pelicans in the middle, they don't really have anything that can stop Russell. Obviously, no one does.
Right.
Then on top of that, if PG's at the top of his game, you're not staying with him.
The only thing, I mean, Anthony Davis,
that's the
definite MVP considerations. Not only that, but Rondo, let's say he gets in Russ's head, but a lot that's holding them back without Cousins. Steven Adams has been fantastic this year, and Emeka Okafor. Is that who's starting for the Pelicans right now? I feel like this is a game of 2K, season of 2K we're experiencing. But yeah, I'll have to take Oklahoma City in that, especially if they're keeping that home court advantage.
I mean, at the end of the day, the West, to me, is an open door that we'd have to look at in like a week when the standings are more set. I mean, the Spurs are a huge wild card right now. Let's say tonight we get a notification, hey, Leonard's back Tuesday.
God, I hope so.
I'm just saying, imagine that all of a sudden the whole outlook is, that's not just some joke at 6 now. Now that's a whole different beast. So, I mean, the whole West is just a
lot more
question mark. Exactly.
That's for sure.
At the end of it all, Kawhi Leonard back or not, who do you think is taking the West? If you had to guess today.
So back or not?
Yeah, back or not. You think Kawhi Leonard back would give the Spurs enough to win the West? Because you got to remember he hasn't played all year.
Right. That's a tough. I think at the end of the day, from what I've seen from Harden and CP3 and just Capella and how that team runs when they're all on the court, I'd give it to Houston. Just because in realistic view of the whole thing, I don't see Leonard coming back. If he does come back, he's not going to be 100%. LA's been different in the playoffs compared to the regular season. You obviously can't say definitely what LA is going to show up. So
looking at it right now, look at that 3-6 matchup right now today. Portland, San Antonio, LA going back to Portland. That would be interesting to see too. The West has storylines all over the place.
I'd say what would happen in that series, LA would put up some absurd stat line like he did with the Blazers back in the playoffs. Let's say like 40 and like 18, but Spurs would lose.
Really? You don't think they take the Blazers?
I don't think they're taking
Kawhi?
the Blazers.
Not taking
Blazers have been really good this year.
So basically you're saying playoffs today, Spurs out first round without Kawhi.
They'd give them a battle, but they'd be out, yeah.
No, I mean, it's hard to argue.
Without that home court,
especially when you're talking about Dollar Dame at the point guard. I mean,
CJ.
Tony Parker isn't staying with that.
No. DeJounte Murray?
I mean, defensively maybe, but the Spurs, I don't know if they can do enough on the offensive glass. That offense is crazy for Portland.
Right.
They can put up points. I mean, at the end of it all, my final prediction would just be round 10? Of Warriors, Cavs, as badly as I do not want to see it, that'd be my guess. I mean, the Warriors don't seem worried at all. Steve Kerr seems like he's sleeping through it right now.
Right.
He seems like he's just ready for the West. I know he won't admit it, but he's so casual.
Sweating a little bit about the Steph Curry injury.
I don't know. I think he's looking down right now. He's looking at Utah. He sees like a nice little up-and-coming team, but he knows that they can't stay with the Warriors. You even heard him like a week ago saying they can beat anybody without Steph.
True. You see him, though? Can you just imagine him waking up in a sweat nightmare? He gets the text, Kawhi Leonard's back. He looks down. They're the 7th seed.
I can see it. Like I said, maybe in a week we look and we hear Kawhi's back. Maybe in a week we look and we hear Kawhi's out for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's a major shakeup for the Western Conference when we know the exact health of Kawhi Leonard.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that'll be it for this podcast, guys. Catch us again at Sports Salad. If you guys want to hear more, we talk about everything from the UCL to regular soccer, basketball, football. We cover all the topics.
Everything's in the mix.